signal.
I'd like to call to order the Facilities Committee meeting at 6:30 PM. Roll call,
Stephanie Olson,
here.
David Pombo,
Here.
Jimmy Legrand,
Here.
Orsten Harrison,
Yep.
Andrea Gemlick,
Absent.
Munir Udin.
Here.
Move to item 3, receiving of public comments. I don't see anyone here to make general public comments. I see someone that's going to speak to an agenda item later, so we can move on to item 4, facility use update, staff report on facility use minutes.
We have the minutes from our last meeting. If anybody has any input or concern, it's right there.
Finance report.
As you can see, we have approximately $299,000 as a balance in our district facilities use account. And on the following pages, you can see the facility usage, which my assistant changed the color again to try to make it more pleasing to the eye. I think you'll really like it. The colors are much more discerning to see the usage for Tier 1, 2A, and Tier 3 usage for all the school sites. As usual, the high school has the most usage. They have the most facilities, most gyms, etc. And that one, she changed the color as well, so it's easier to see for the public and for the committee.
Are there any questions regarding the facility use reports?
No. I like the colors. I kind of miss blue, but
Well, we have to pick which way we want, to see the colors or have blue.
this is fine.
Okay, so yeah, I think that the colors look great. It's very, very readable. And seeing no questions, we'll move on to item D, denied applications. Staff report.
So the denied applications are on page 16 and 17, 15 and 16. On that spreadsheet, you can see the user group and the reason for the denial and the accommodations that were made. We have one specific group that keeps asking for classrooms during the school day or right after the school day, which doesn't work in many of our school sites because teachers work in their classrooms right after school. Other than that, it's kind of the general, somebody was using the facility, so it had to get changed over to somewhere new. And then the next page, you can see our refunds, which kind of goes hand in hand.
Any questions regarding that? Okay, so that takes care of item 4. Moving on to item 5, information and discussion items. Item A, water fill stations update. Staff report.
So an ongoing item, longer than I would like. Mr. Pombo brought this to this committee 4 years ago, I think.
Something like that.
4 years ago. And we had a great plan ahead of us on how to get water fill stations at the other school sites, at all the school sites that didn't have them. And the original plan was that Jimmy and his staff were going to buy the fill station and install them. So we did a practice run at Lammersville, and it went very well, and they worked. That water fill station is still working. It's working great. Then COVID hit. That kind of put a stall because we didn't need the water fill stations. And now, coming out of COVID, everything is more expensive, and construction and everything, and the items, especially if they're made of steel, is more expensive. So tonight I want to kind of give you a rundown of what we're planning, what we're looking at, and the changes and some of the challenges with what we want to do with the water fill stations, and then the costs, potential costs. So on the screen, you can see that we have the current types of water available, to students. So on the right is your standard water faucet at Wickland. And then on your left is a standard water faucet at all the other schools except for Cordis, who has water fill stations. So there's a different construction here for both these items. So the water faucet on the right, it's attached to the brick wall, and there is not necessarily a large hole behind, as there may be on the left for the water faucets on the left. You see they have the big silver plate, and each individual school site has a different size silver backplate. So we don't know until we dissect what it looks like behind there. So what we want to do before we start going en masse and figuring out how we're going to pay for the total, which I have in my presentation tonight, we want to dissect one of these and see what it's going to take, because we may have to put double units on some of these water faucets at these other school sites, because we don't want to leave a hole, we don't want to leave a gap, and you're not going to be able to match any of the tile or any of the stucco and do repair work for a water faucet. Right? Next slide, please. Sorry.
Would it be possible just to put a back plate behind the fill station, similar to what you see there, to cover the?
Yes, we're going to investigate that when we do our dissection. Right here in front of you, you can see the different types of water fill stations. So the one on the right is similar to what we did at Lammersville, and the one on the left is a double, which is what we're keeping in mind in case we have to do a double to accommodate the hole in the wall, right? If we can't make a back plate work. The unit on the right is approximately installed, bought, the unit and everything is approximately $4,500. The unit on the left is approximately $6,500.
And the unit on the left, it has one fill station, and then what's double is the fountains, and they're both filtered water.
Cold filtered water. And these all require power. So the way we're looking at it is the district would buy the units, and then we would hire our plumber and our electricians, who are district plumbers and electricians, to install the units piecemeal, because we don't know if we're going to be able to do all at once or do part. Maybe we do half of the units and then do the other half. We haven't quite gotten there yet. Obviously, I haven't told you, the total costs. So the next thing we did is Jimmy and I walked all the school sites that have this potential of the water fill stations to find out where we could A, have power, and B, would be a good spot anatomically for the school. It would be a good spot to have a fill station. So if you could go to the map, the first map. So this is Altamont School. The blue stars indicate where we feel the best places are to put the water fill stations. And those water fill stations would be replacing a drinking faucet. Initially, we put as many water fill stations as we felt could cover the whole school. We may have to cut back because we discovered what the total price of this may be. But if we move on from Altamont to the next school, this is Bethany School. And you can see the blue star on the left is just inside the MPR, in the foyer to the MPR, and then the other two locations for the fill stations. Next slide, please. This is Hanson. Hanson is, I apologize for the spelling, but Google Earth spells Hanson. So Google Earth has an error. We're going to contact Google and make sure they know that they've made a mistake. So obviously here we have one at the MPR foyer. No, that's not the foyer. It's inside. They're inside the MPR at Hanson. And then two in each wing, one in each wing on the ends. Next slide, please. This is the high school. This is a little more challenging because it's such a big footprint and there are so many kids. We thought we would just go with what the maximum we thought we would need. And you can see that the in C building, there's one blue star. One of those is upstairs, one of those is downstairs. in C building. And then in A building, there's one Blue Star. It's upstairs because there's only one water faucet in there, and it's upstairs. So that's really our only location. And then you can see if you go further north to the theater, there's one in that hall there that we would replace. And then if you go to the east, you go to the cafeteria, we would replace the one on the southeast side of the cafeteria. Moving south in the gym, we would replace the water faucet in the foyer between the restrooms, just outside of the basketball court. We looked inside at the faucets inside the gym by the basketball courts. We thought, no, that's not a good plan because there's way too much action. They're way too close to the basketball courts. Yeah. So that's quite a few stations there at the high school. If you could move on. This is Cuesta School. Cuesta School's a lot easier locale-wise. I think it's the layout of the school. So we did one at each corner off of the playgrounds. It's where kids enter and exit the playgrounds and for PE. And then one right outside the MPR that they have in that covered area where the principal wanted it. He didn't want it in the MPR, he wanted it right outside. So as kids entered or left, they could fill their water bottles. That's it, right? Next slide. Oh, Wickland, sorry. Wickland School. Jimmy feels like Wickland School would be the easiest school to replace the water fountains because they're some of the oldest.
Oldest ones, yeah.
You know, strategically, we have them placed around the school on that is the west side and the east side, and then the south side of school. I get that right? South side? Yeah. They did not have as many locations that had power, so we stuck with 3 water fill stations because if you don't have power, you can't get the water fill station, and we're not. It's going to cost a lot of money if we pull power from inside the building and go up in the attic and come down and around. We just went to places that we knew there was power close, so it would keep the cost down. Is that the last one? Thank you. So the $24,000 question is, what would it cost to do 22 water fill stations in the district? Approximately, and this is an approximate number, $137,000. So what I'm looking for is, next steps. I have spoken to the superintendent about the water fill stations. If I need to do some research to find out from the superintendent if we have a funding source. But I think before we decide on that, I think we should pull one apart that has the backing and figure out what's behind it and decide what it's truly, if we can do a single or a double, depending on what the structure is. So I'm just looking for what the group thinks, we ought to do for next steps.
Was this $137,000 estimate based on 4,500 or 6,500 per unit?
It was based on the high number.
Okay.
Except for Wickland. We know Wickland we can put the single units.
Okay.
It's the others we don't. So we did the high number. We thought doing the high number, I'd rather give you a high number that comes down lower than give you a low number that goes higher.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You never want to do that.
Yeah.
You don't want the low bid that goes high. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Wickland, I know because my kids go there. So replacing the water filter is really, really nice idea. So it will help, because they are old ones. Yeah. They need replacement and upgrades,
Well, 4 years later, I still think it's a good idea.
I'm sorry it took so long. I tried to save the district money and it didn't work out.
That was not a jab at you.
I know it wasn't. I know. So is there a recommendation to maybe start with 1 or 2 at 2 of the school sites, like at Wickland and maybe at Altamont, and see what it looks like?
I think that would be a prudent way to go about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
And then I'll talk to the superintendent about funding sources, and when I have more information, I'll bring it back here, and I think we can kind of clean it up, and then I can bring it to the full board. Does that work?
Yep.
Sounds good.
With that?
Consensus on that, yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to item B, Bethany Elementary School Facilities Update.
So one of the things that we talk about at this group and that Jimmy talks about at the board when he does his board report is things that are going on at our school sites. I just kind of wanted to give you a thumbnail sketch of some of the things that we have going on at one of our older schools this summer. So this summer, these are the things we're going to try to pull off this summer at Bethany alone. So it's going to be the office upgrade, what we've talked about, the safety upgrades that we've presented here at Safety Committee and at the board. We're holding that till the summer because it's a lot more deconstruction than the other school sites, and we don't want to disrupt the school. So we're going to have that, and the office will have to be reorganized and new flooring laid down, potentially some new cabinetry to make it work at Bethany. It's got the most difficult infrastructure to make those safety changes right. And then we're finishing the flooring. Mr. Pombo may remember before the pandemic, we started doing the flooring at Bethany. We did 3/4 of the school, and then we were going to do the rest the next summer. It's 3 years later, so we're doing the flooring in the 500, 600 wing, the band room, and is that it? And some touch-up in the office. Oh, and some touch-up in the office. I can't read my own writing. And then also we're going to do the kitchen floor because the kitchen floor, the epoxy's coming off of the laminate, so we're going to redo the kitchen floor. And then we're also talking about potentially doing the roof. Jimmy talked about the roofs leaking at Bethany and other schools. Bethany had the most leaks, so we thought, and it's one of the older schools, so we thought we better get an estimate on repairing the roof. So we're going to try to do that this summer. We're going to add some speed bumps and some safety cones that the principal asked for. And then we're also putting a freezer, external freezer outside the back door of the kitchen as well in the next 3 months. Next to the bike rack? Yeah, next to the bike rack. So we were going to pour a slab there and run power and everything else that we need for the external freezer. So Bethany's got a lot going on it'll probably be between spring break and the summer that all this gets done. So that's just one example of the things that we're doing to Bethany this summer. So there's going to be a lot of action.
Any questions or comments?
I'm curious what the freezer is for. It's just extra storage or, yeah.
So Bernie, our director of food services, came to the board. We brought something to the board, I think 2 meetings ago, maybe 3, about getting more freezer space because we feed students more now. We have universal lunch now, and we have breakfast, which means you need more food stored to feed all the kids. And our schools weren't built for storage for the new laws in California.
And that does not apply for other schools, like you need a freezer for other schools or just the Bethany? It will be done.
We are adding 2 freezers, external freezers, one at Cuesta and one at Bethany. And regionally, one's north and one's south. And regionally, it'll help the schools store more food, and she should be able to move food around from there.
Any other questions? All right, moving on to item C, Cuesta and Altamont Elementary School gym, other sites, light blocking curtains.
So this was brought to the facilities committee, and Jimmy and I have been struggling with this item. I just wanted to give everybody an update and let everybody know that we have not found anybody that will put something up in Cuesta. Now, Altamont we could do because it's a big square, but Cuesta, there's some challenges with the structure of the windows up above the north side of the MPR. And to be honest, each end of the MPR, because there's the big right triangles up top on each side. Some of the things we've talked about is using, that film that you use in vehicles or houses that darken the space. But then we realized the whole architecture of it was to bring light, natural light, into the facility when kids are having lunch or kids are doing things in the MPR. So with that said, we also talked about, okay, we could do the 2 little sets of windows that are basically squares, but I don't think that's going to solve the problem of the light for the dark performances. So with that said, we're still working and trying to figure out what we can do. Jimmy's trying to find other people that may give us some options. Like I said last time, the options we're looking for are not options that, have a long cord,
The
that's
drawstring.
manual that draws. No, we need something automatic. It's way up there, and we don't want somebody pulling and it falling on them from that high up, and it could really injure somebody. And our schools are beautiful. It needs to look good. It needs to look professional. So we are still nowhere on that request. So we're still working on it.
Any questions or comments?
I'm sure that the cost would be prohibitive, but they do have glass that darkens. You flip a switch and it,
Oh yeah.
I think it would be way too expensive, but I don't know. It might be worth looking into just to get an idea.
That's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
Plus, it'd be really cool. Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Moving on to item D, facilities use, user group procedure and facilitron.
So at the last meeting, we discussed user groups, and Jimmy and I were tasked with going back and coming up with a structured system, a tiered system for our user groups that would be fair and would hold user groups accountable when their behavior was not consistent with our facilities use handbook. So we talked about 10 years, 7 years, 5 years, different year spans. And when we looked at the number of groups and who have been here the longest and what our tiers look like, Jimmy and I decided that, and this is our proposal, is we have tier 1 would be 5 years or longer here in Mountain House using our facilities in good standing. That would be 19 user groups. Okay? And then tier 2 would be 3 years or longer. And that's 14, currently that's 14 user groups. Now, obviously this group, when they got to 5 years, they would become a part of the 5-year group and matriculate up to the other user group. And then the other thing that we propose is that if you're in let's say you're in tier 2 and you have a bad year, maybe you have a new financer, or maybe you have a new secretary in charge of the funds running an organization, and they have some problems and they don't pay, and it goes month after month of not paying, and they can drop into being on probation. So we feel like if you can pay your bills for a year after you've had some problems, you can get your way back to the tier you were in. But if it goes over a year, then you just stay with everybody, every other user, and you compete with every other user year after year if you can't get your act together. We thought that would be fair, especially if you're a group that's been here 5 years or longer. We have some groups that have been here 10 years. If we've had a couple organizations switch the people who are running it. There might be a gap and there might be some problems with the user group, and they might violate our rules, and either not pay on time or whatever the case may be. It would be good if they could be on probation for a year and be able to get back to where they were. That way you're not just, cutting people off prematurely. So we think the 1 year probation, if they had some problems, would be a good thing. The other thing that Jimmy gave me tonight is the number of user groups that we have that are below tier 2 that we have currently renting facilities from us. We have 90 active groups below tier 2. So when you look at the numbers, it seems kind of fair to do the 5 years with 19 and the 3 years with there's 14 groups. And I think we'll have some of those lower groups matriculate up to the 3-year group, 3-year group matriculate up to the 5-year group, and so on. So for our newest member, I'll explain this. We have different user groups. We have user groups that have been here a long time. They're kind of, they have seniority, and they get to rent facilities first, followed by all the other user groups. And you have to be in good standing and all that to be able to be a part of that group. This group asked us to put together a different model because we've had a lot of people breaking the rules and doing a lot of naughty stuff when it comes to our facilities. So I think we needed to have a a better system, a little tighter system, and that's what we're bringing forward.
Yeah,
You mentioned breaking the rules, and you primarily talked about not paying on time and those sorts of things. But the rules also address other misbehaviors, alcohol on the premises, not living up to the contract as far as coming and going when they're contracted to do so, leaving the premises clean, not damaging things and hiding it or whatever. All those sorts of things are also part of the rules, correct?
Yes, fights at your events that cause public problems, things like that are also a part of that, yeah. Yeah, which, those are all things we've had in the past.
yeah, I think the system-wise, like the group-wise is very good. Especially the categorizing of the groups, it looks good, yeah. In the long run, it will help us, when we have renting the facilities, and it will help.
Yeah, I like the probation year. It's benevolent, I think.
Yeah, I think that's good because I think it's very astute to notice that, there's a lot of nonprofits that change volunteers, and the work of all the good volunteers could be easily undone by 1 year of not so dedicated volunteers. And then when people try to, re-up the group to be punished for just that 1 year, I think it is that's a great word for it, benevolent, and it benefits the students who use those extracurriculars.
And I would like to point out for our new member as well as the public that we're not in the business of renting out facilities. We do it as a benefit to the community, and we're not, looking for new customers. They come to us, and therefore I think we have a duty to the district and to our students to make sure that the people renting our facilities are treating them with the care and the respect that they should.
So that brings up a question, how do we monitor, because I'm new, as I said, but just to see that they are not violating the rules, is there mechanism to monitor, or?
So do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, I do. I was just saying that was a good question.
So our custodians, many of the events require a custodian to open and close and do cleanup. Our custodians are the first line of seeing what goes on. We have cameras on all our campuses. And if things are left amiss, if something's broken, we'll just go back in the cameras and look and go, well, they broke it and they didn't tell us. I mean, at least tell us that you broke something. Because things break, right? But if it's due to malice, then you're not going to use it because it's for our kids. So we have different mechanisms like that. Sometimes we can't, sometimes we don't know what happened. But if we can see and know, then we take action.
The custodians have a checklist that they go over before and after the event so that we know this happened at this event or.
What about the events that take place on the fields? Because that's a little trickier to monitor, right? Because if you rent it on a Saturday and you clean it up, well, the public has access to the field on a Sunday. So is there a way that you've been able to okay.
I mean, the cameras, we can get some, depending on where the field is, we get some view of the fields. And we could hopefully see if a group left it a mess or it was clean, then some other group came in. So.
One of the things that's happened recently is, and we couldn't prove it, is mechanical vehicles on our fields. Carts and whatnot, and that's not safe for anyone, particularly our sprinklers.
Yes.
So, those are things that we really don't want happening.
Any other questions or comments?
So is my direction to move forward with this plan?
I believe that's the consensus, yes.
Okay, so then what I'll do moving forward is we'll formalize this. Do you want to start this with the next round of facility releases, which happens in the summer? We'll start it then. We'll add it to the facilities handbook, which comes to this group maybe at the next meeting, actually. The updated facilities handbook comes here, and then we take it to the board each year for reapproval of the facilities handbook. So, would you like me to add that to it?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Moving on to item E, pool rental.
Oh, I'm sorry, there was one other item,
Facilitron, sorry.
beg your pardon, I didn't cover that.
I missed it, sorry.
So, myself, Sean Yohannan, our Director of IT, and Jimmy LeGrand and Aria, have all, and Travis Manley, have all received a presentation from Facilitron. Facilitron is a facilities rental and work order system that is used in a number of districts, particularly to our east, to rent and to communicate with user groups via a website. And they also have a work order system that is automated and communicative. And I just wanted to let this group know that we are in the process of looking at this product, this tool, for two reasons. One, to help free up some of our staff, which everybody here knows how hard it's been to get staff hired. And for two, it's a very clean system. The facilities rental website is they take pictures, they have pictures of everything. It's all automated. They can pay there. There's no work orders, so business doesn't have to process any work orders. They do everything for you when it comes to facilities. So I think it would perhaps free up some of our staff time and actually be nice for the end user because there's pictures of every facility and it's just cleaner than some of the stuff we have now. We don't have, that type of setup right now for our use. So we're all going to talk about it and have some conversations. If we think that it's something that's good for the district, we'll bring it to this group at the next meeting and do a little demo and show you what it's all about. Its fee structure is based on our rentals, so there's no upfront fees, and they take 14% off the top, and that would be for both the facilities rental tools and the work order system. So there's more investigating going on, but I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that we are investigating better tools for communication when it comes to work orders and for our rentals and our facilities. And, within the next 2 years, we're going to have another whole school, and we're going to have the 19 acres over north of the high school as well. And that's 2, 4, 6 more facilities, potentially that will get more use. So,
couple of questions. We sometimes waive fees for certain groups. Would that be taken into account with this program, or would we be paying a premium on fees that we don't collect?
it's only on collected fees. So when you do a partnership with like a city or for in our case the CSD, which happens at a number of schools, when you do a partnership, it doesn't count in that the fee structure. So it's only a positive take. So whatever you make, they take 14% off the top.
Another question. You said it would free up some district staff. Do we feel like it would free up enough to cover that 14%, or would we be looking to up the facility rentals to cover all or a portion of that? Maybe too early in the process to answer that question.
We don't know yet. Jimmy his group just saw it today. He and I have to have more conversations with the reps and really dig deeper into it. I just want to let this group know. I know I've talked about the work order system before here. I just wanted this group to know that we are working on this and that there are potentially some solutions that are less manual and more automated, including paying and everything.
If I could add something, one of the things that came up in our demo today was they will take into account your maintenance, your utility bills, and they will analyze it versus the space to do an analysis to see if we're charge and with our labor costs to see if we're charging enough for our particular spaces so we're not, losing money. So that's part of this whole thing.
And so if I understand correctly, the Facilitron is something that is especially, you're looking at it especially because of the work order situation, because it's so hard to manage them all, or is
No,
it more the rental part?
Both. Well, I'm looking at both because I think our work order system is archaic, but it might be the best thing out there. I don't know that it is. So we're trying to marry the two. And the way I see it is if we have the facility rental group and the work order group working hand in hand, that's just going to help our staff. So that's kind of why we're looking at both. Now, we could just do Facilitron and stay with our work order system, but we wanted to look at everything. I specifically want to look at everything because I think our work order system doesn't communicate well enough with people at the sites who put in the work orders.
And Facilitron perhaps may.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And also, one of the things that come up today is, for example, if we have a user group that's using a field and the field needs to be striped, the system can generate a work order automatically to get that done for us. Or if you need to have the HVAC on in the room from 5 to 10 p.m. on a Saturday, it'll automatically generate those type of work orders for us and kick it into our system so we can get those things scheduled.
It falls right along with the superintendent's Drive to 9,000 plan, which includes not only training, but more paperless, more efficiency in our workplace. As we get bigger and bigger, the more efficiencies we have, the better we'll run. So it's still a work in progress, but I wanted to report to this group to let you know that we're working on it.
Just one more question on the work order is like that portion available to staff at the school, or would that also be like community members who use the facilities who are like, oh, this is broken, can we, let them know that it's broken kind of thing, or?
Like the CSD go.
Yeah,
I don't know the answer to that. I only ask questions about staff, but I can ask questions about that. If the portal includes public.
yeah, it might be useful.
Like just a notification, like the sprinkler's broken on this corner or something.
Sure.
Like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I will ask.
Moving on, item E, pool rental, fee exception request, Mountain House Swim Club, Sailfish, Andy Sue of Mountain House Flag Football. We have
I believe there's a representative
there's a
here.
representative,
I
yes.
can read the email that I received of the superintendent forwarded to me. Are you guys good with that?
Yes.
So the nonprofit Mountain House Flag Football would like to rent the Mountain House High School swimming pool to start the Mountain House Swim Club, in quotes, Sailfish, cool name. This program will give the kids in the district a way to learn and a new sport and another sport to compete and excel in. We will also be able to offer jobs to high school students as lifeguards and instructors. 1, we would like to rent the pool Saturday, March 4th and March 11th from 7 to 9 p.m. And 2, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. from April 3rd to July 28th, 17 weeks. We would like to have access, a key to the pool so we are not dependent on daily custodian. We ask the daily custodian fee be waived. They also ask, since the program is just starting, the request to have the payment due date postponed until March 27th. So after receiving this email, like I do with these types of things that come to this group, I broke down the numbers. So if you look at the screen in front of you, the dates are on the left that have been requested. You can see that the time, the hours that have been requested are listed there, along with the pool use, which if it's a nonprofit, which I believe it is, it would be $50 an hour for pool use. And then the custodial fees would be $39.38, which is the new custodial fee. It's gone up because we had negotiated a new salary with our CSEA group. So the ultimate ask is about 172 hours of pool use, about $8,600 in fee waived for pool, and $38.59.24 in custodial fees waived. The if you notice that from March 4th to March 11th, where it says custodial, it has a 0. That's because we have custodial working till 10 o'clock at night, so they can open and close with no charge, which is what we do for other groups. During spring break, April 3rd to 7th, We don't have custodial working during that time, so there would be an overtime custodial charge of $393.80. From April 10th to May 26th, the 70 hours, we would have custodians that could open and close for the time allotted, like we do for other groups. On May 30th through July 28th, we would have to provide overtime of the total of $3,465.44 to open and close the facility for the group. Next slide. So there is an ask for a key. Staff recommends no, an absolute no. We don't give keys out to user groups. We do give keys out to coaches that coach at the high school, but they return them when they're finished. And then the ask for the fee postponed until March 27th. Our requirement for our handbook is the fee is due 10 days prior to the first reservation date. Just wanted everybody to have that information during the conversation that we have for this item. That is all that I have.
The email that you received, I apologize because I realized you just read it, but I guess I wasn't paying as close attention as I should have been. Is it asking that we waive the hourly fee for the pool and the custodian?
Yes.
No.
I thought it was.
No, it's just the custodial. If,
I thought I heard custodial.
Just custodian.
the daily custodian fee be waived.
Oh, okay. Then I have it incorrect on my presentation. So can you go back a slide? So it would remove the so it would be the custodial fee that's they're asking to waive.
Yes.
My mistake. Apologies.
All of the custodial fee, even the summer?
Yes.
That is a tough one because personally, I don't feel like we can waive the custodial fees entirely if we have to have custodians there to open and close. Personally, I would be more inclined to waive a portion of the rental fee in lieu so that it would kind of balance out, but I'm not making that recommendation. I'm just saying that would, for me, would be more palatable than waiving the custodial fees if we're going to have to pay the custodians to be there.
So the question I ask myself on this is, what about all the other user groups that have to pay custodial fees? That's the first thing I ask myself. We don't waive custodial fees, during these times for any other user group. We have for the CSD in partnership with the CSD for the pool program that they kicked off a few years ago, and it didn't go last year because of COVID, I think, hiring, or the year before. But that was in partnership with CSD.
That was going to be my question is what did that, I can't remember all of the parameters around that partnership, and could the swim club work a partnership similar than that the CSD had, or what's the differences between the two organizations partnering in the same way? Does that make sense?
Well, there's laws that allow school districts and schools to partner with municipalities and to do shared use and partner with facilities, both either owned by the district or owned by the city, and vice versa, and do shared use agreements. That's kind of what we used as the basis when we first did the pool agreement.
So how did they pay custodians? And when they waived that fee during that summer, how were they compensated? When the CSD was using the pool and the custodial fees were waived, how were the custodians compensated that summer?
We pay They pay
Oh,
custodial.
they did?
They-
Oh,
And they pay for, and they pay for chemicals too.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was reduced. It wasn't waived. I used the wrong word.
Okay.
And one big difference is the CSD pool program was generating funds that were coming into the district to help offset some of those fee waivers. Where this, I don't believe there's anything other than these numbers here that would possibly be coming into the,
Can
To
we
the
invite
district.
The coach to come up to speak? Yeah. Is he's here?
anyway, I believe it's a noble cause. I just don't know that we want to set the precedent of favoring one nonprofit over another.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Liu. I'll be the swim coach for the Mountain House Sailfish Swim Club. In discussion with Stephanie and Andy earlier, this team will be, a USA swimming level team targeting the local community and then students for this school district. From my experience, I do think it will be a very popular team because I personally ran a Learn to Swim program. There are many requests regarding swimming team practice, where they can go. I think the only option in this area is the Tracy Tritons. So I think it will be a popular program to have. So in order to make it work, especially for its launching year, if we can, keep the cost down a little bit to make it as affordable as possible for the family, that would be great. That's my opinion.
I have another question for staff that I thought of it, but I didn't ask it before. I apologize. The May 30th through July 28th timeframe, would that interfere with the agreement we have with the CSD for pool use?
I think their pool use is done at 6, right? They're done at 6? Yeah, I think it would be after. They're asking for 7 to 9 p.m., so I think it's after. The other thing that I did is I sent this to the principal of the high school to find out if it would interfere with any swimming or water polo times, and they did not think that it would interfere.
Well, I do know that Andy Sue contacted the swim coach and asked when their practices were before he picked the time.
There you go.
Yeah.
Does the fact that custodial will be there for the CSD swim program have any effect on these numbers, or was that taken into account?
Well, if the CSD has a program, there will be a custodian to close, but that would be an hour before this time. So they're still required to have a custodian an hour before and an hour after when you rent the facility. When there are no custodians present to do that, we have to bring somebody in. That's if we can find somebody to come in and do it, which has been our problem lately, is finding the people to do that. So
And this program is different. Basically, we are running two programs, right? Like CSD one and this one, most likely. The CSD one in the summer.
This-
open.
This is a swimming team.
Teaming, okay, swim team, okay, got it.
Does anybody think that the CSD will actually run a program this summer? Because I don't think so. Like, what's just
I don't know.
my personal opinion.
I think they should be advertising and training lifeguards now
Yes,
for this summer, and I haven't heard anything. That doesn't mean they're not doing it. I
right.
just have not heard that they've been doing that.
Yeah, I mean, that's like neither here nor there, but as far, like, they asked for it last year and then didn't do anything, and it's been 2 years. I mean, COVID was that first summer, but then last summer couldn't come up with, the lifeguards and everything. So as far as like availability of the pool or whatever, it doesn't seem like it's going to be in a too much demand. Yep.
the agreement with CSD is a 2-year agreement. We switched to 2-year agreements,
Yeah,
I think 4 years ago,
okay.
right before COVID. And so last year was the first year on a 2-year agreement with CSD that went to board previously.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to your question. It's really hard finding staff for anything.
Right.
And finding lifeguards is exceedingly difficult because they have a special talent, right?
I don't know about custodians. Is there available? Same thing.
That we'll have to see. I don't know. We won't know. And, people have to, what happens is Mr. Legrand puts out the overtime, requests from all the user groups, and we try to get custodians to sign up. What happens is usually the longer term custodial get filled first because people, if they're going to come in after hours or on the weekend, they want a bigger paycheck rather than come in for an hour or two. So, yeah.
Could you speak to the cost I think I have to fully disclose, I think most of you are aware, but since you're new members, you might not know that I am part of the Sailfish Swim organization, so I'm trying to keep my hands out of the discussion, and but I would like the coach to speak to what was discussed about how much it could cost families without help the first year, because we don't know how many students. We think a lot of students will sign up, but it's hard to know until you do it. Could you speak to the cost that it could potentially be versus what it?
Yeah, so in our discussion, I think the cost for one swimmer will be around $500 for 4 months of practice. And then based on our discussion, I think the break-even number requires 60 swimmers for the first year.
Yeah, and I think that, I thought it was $750, but I think it depends on how many days they practice.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I think for 4 months, for April to July, that's 500.
And that's a daily, like Monday through Friday?
Monday to
practice?
Friday,
But
yep.
not- But the 500 isn't for 5 days a week, it's for they have 2 practice days, they're in their certain group, right? Is
Right.
that what it is? Mhm.
500
different
for,
levels.
okay, I see, okay. And that was with no discount, like no fees waived here, or is that with fees waived that you're asking for?
I'm not,
I believe that was, I wish Director Sue could be here, I believe that was with no fees waived.
Okay,
I mean, and the cost is I think what Andy Sue, if I can speak for him, I'm not speaking for me right now, from his concern was that since we don't know how many swimmers will sign up, we have to set a price before, and without a discount, we have to set the price high because we don't know, that we'll get 100 swimmers, but if we set the price high, we could kill the program before it
right,
starts. if
yeah,
that
it'd be
makes
like
sense.
$1,000
Yeah.
or something, right, yeah. Yeah, so my kids currently swim they swim every summer on a swim team at the Tracy Tritons, and we pay $400 for the first swimmer and then $200 for the second, every subsequent swimmer, which ends up being $300 a kid. And we have practice from April 1st to the middle of July, 4 days a week for every swimmer, for basically 4 months and of course meets begin in May, on Saturdays. So that looks better to me than $500 for 2 practices a week. So that would be hard, I think, to recruit or to get a lot of people on board with that high cost.
sorry, one thing to clarify, I think my misspoken, the practice, the plan was 5 days a week for practice. but
For
we do have
every swimmer.
For every swimmer, but we do
Oh,
have
okay.
2 groups based on their ability.
Yeah, like 2 practice times.
Right, correct.
Okay, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Which, just, I would be willing to pay a little bit more not to have to drive, like it's farther, we have to drive on the other. But that being said, Tracy Tritons has an agreement with, I don't know the agreement with Tracy Unified School District, but they use Tracy High School. I'm curious to know what their agreement is with that swim club, like who opens the pool. Yeah, I don't know if it's worth looking into.
Right, because I think that was the concern, if we're charging that much money, if a family's paying $500 per child, that we have to know that the pool will be able to be open, because we can't say practice is canceled, over and over. and build a successful program. So I think that's the challenge.
If I could add another monkey wrench into it, the other thing is that they have to have the requisite number of lifeguards as delineated in our handbook.
Yeah.
And a coach would be considered a lifeguard.
Of course, a coach, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we are aware of that.
I just want to make sure we think of all the different.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's pretty typical for the coach and the assistant coach or any like junior coach to have the lifeguard certification before they hire them.
These numbers here, the prices here, is that everything that we would normally charge a nonprofit to use the pool?
Well, recently we added chemical costs to CSD for pool use, which we hadn't done before, which we haven't standardized in our handbook. So with that, yes, these are all the costs, right? That I
That are
figured here
in the current handbook.
in the current handbook, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's the lowest charge for a nonprofit, right? It's a nonprofit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the custodial hourly, which, like I said, just changed. So yeah, so that would be the other thing they ask for is a key, and I do not support the giving user groups keys.
Yeah, well, I think they felt like if they had a key, they wouldn't need to pay the custodial because they wouldn't.
No,
require the-
no, that was not, I don't want you to put words into Andy's mind. His concern was just that the custodian wouldn't be there to open up the pool and practice couldn't take place. He just wants to make sure that the pool is open and that they're not hunting for a custodian. Those were two separate elements, right? Like, I mean, I think that's the biggest worry is making sure that practice can happen.
Right, because it's a difference between like flag football, you show up on the field, it's open already, practice is always going to happen, but a pool with a gate and a lock is a little bit different. And we actually had that issue on our own team with the community pool in Tracy of communication issues where the gate wasn't open and you have like 100 people showing up to a practice and there's no practice. Yeah, so it was annoying.
I feel like it's a worthy program. I can't get behind waiving custodial fees that we're going to have to pay out of the general fund to our custodians to work. As I said at the outset, I would be more inclined to making some, at least for the first year, making some sort of a concession on the $50 an hour pool fee, but my feeling is we take it to the full board. We have a discussion as a board and come up with a yay or a nay and some parameters. If staff has any further questions or concerns about it, they can bring them to the full board, or we can hear them now. And
My concern is just showing consideration to one particular group, and then another group's gonna come in and, well, you cut them fees for this, why can't we get cut fees? There's a
Yeah.
lot of community groups that do a lot of good things in the district, and my kids played club sports for years. I have 4 kids, they're expensive sometimes, and I'm afraid, it's like you said, it might open a whole can of worms for us,
yeah, and I agree.
so.
What about like bulk hours? Can you get hours in bulk and get a reduced cost for bulk hours?
I mean,
Because of the excessive use of this? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, well, I think that, like, I see all the sides, right? Like, and I obviously have a personal interest in it, but what Trustee Pombo said is accurate, that this would be something that I don't think would be expected to be renewed. I think it's just the initial year. Getting a swim team started in this community, whichever organization undertakes it, is going to be difficult, and you can't really have more than one swim team. So this, like, I'm not saying this is what we have to do, because I think what Jimmy says is true. We don't want to have people complaining about favoritism, And, but can we consider, is a swim team, I'm just asking the question, is a swim team maybe a unique thing because there's only one pool? Nobody's ever attempted to start a swim team that I'm aware of in the existence of Mountain House, but there's a great desire for one. And so as a service to the community members who are looking for this for their kids, would that be a reason to justify it? And I'm not saying one way or the other, just a question to consider, because as Tom said, I do believe there is going to be a great interest in swimmers. Half the Tracy Tritons live in Mountain House.
Yeah, there's quite a few families that drive all the way over there from Mountain House to Tracy that would consider, but I mean, it's a pretty established program. My other question was, as Stephanie was talking, that came up into my mind. I'm sorry. Could the option of, we can reduce or discuss the fee reduction for the 1 year, and if it's successful and if it's amazing, they pay back the full cost. Like, we want you to pay back the full cost based on your ability to pay it back, but we'll give you kind of like a loan kind of thing, maybe something like that. I don't know. Something.
I think that sounds very
Not a business
fair.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we get 120, 150 swimmers, then
Then you could pay it back easily. And you
Yeah.
also do fundraisers. I mean, swim teams do fundraisers and stuff like that too. So there's that option.
But one thing is that when you divide the cost, right, 3,859, so you said 90 students, right? Expectation, like 90 minimum for break even. So if you divide that cost per swimmer,
$100.
it's coming around like $40.
but this isn't our only cost. We
Yeah.
have to pay for insurance for every swimmer. We have to pay for all of the coaches.
that's
And we're planning on offering jobs to the high school students to be junior coaches. So the coaching costs, between the coaching costs, insurance, and pool rental, I believe that the rough number to start the swim team, we're looking at $55,000. And so not knowing how many swimmers there will be, we just like, can we get 60? And if we can get 60, how much will we have to charge to break even? Because we're a nonprofit, we're not trying to make money. So, yeah, that's why like the cost goes up, is because it's not like volunteer flag football where they coach one Saturday a month. It's like they're there 5 days a week, 2 hours a day at swim meets. So you have to pay coaching staff.
I think it's a great program. It benefits the community overall as a Mountain House. So I think, and we need it actually in Mountain House as a swim team. So thank you for starting that program, hopefully.
Yeah, I don't think there's any dissent among the group that it sounds like a good program. The only stumbling block is the subsidizing of it by the school district, and where we draw the line, or how we come to terms with that part of it.
So what I'm hearing, well, I want to make sure I know what you proposed was to send it to the board because this is something that has to, I think can't really like kick this can down the road for this swim team. Are you saying this would be an action item, full board discussion to decide whether they agree or not agree at the next meeting? Or when you said what you said, or did I misunderstand?
Well, in order to have an action item, you need to have a proposal, and I don't know if the group is comfortable with the proposal. I'm not comfortable with the proposal as presented, and I don't know if the group is comfortable coming up with a proposal to take to the full board. We can take it as a discussion item, but
Because
the timing. I
I
don't
mean, the
think
timing
works for.
stinks because the swim team has to have per the league rules that we're going to enter, we have to have our tryouts before April, which means we have to have, you know, the pool rented, and so we have to know what our cost is to have the tryouts, and I think that's the issue. So, I am going to step back since I'm personally vested in this and, have Trustee Pombo say what the committee sends forth, because I don't think it's fair that I put the words, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I have like obviously, you know, an interest in it as well, but only because it's appealing to me to not have to go anywhere else for my kids. Like, but my recommendation, I guess personally, is just to find a way to make it work for this group. And it does sound like favoritism. Maybe I am totally biased because I have swimmers, but in a way that is, you know, just fair. I mean, it's just, there's such a need, there's such a demand for this particular activity. It's only going to make our swim program at our school better for these kids to have access to swimming. It's a safety thing. Like, we need kids to swim.
I understand everything you're saying, but the same argument could be made for flag football and Little League and the tackle football
Sure, yeah.
program. All of them are good for our kids, but they're not school district functions.
Right.
What did you say the break-even number for students? You said 60?
Yeah, 60 swimmers,
$500.
$500 per season.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm sorry. I have three
That actually
swimmers,
only
so
comes up to, no,
that's $1,500.
I'm sorry, that was wrong. $400 to $500 is the price we could lower it to, because if you do the math, that's only $30,000. The
Okay.
break-even number is actually $750
Okay.
a swimmer.
Okay.
To get up to $50,000.
I'm wondering about some sort of a trigger number where if you get 60 swimmers, we give you some accommodation. If you get over 100, you just pay the price.
The regional, yeah.
I'm sorry, I feel like I'm being too biased, so I want to step back because, you know, I'm trying to speak for Andy since he's not here, but Trustee Pombo, would you please be in charge of this action item and lead the discussion?
I don't really know where to go other than if we can take it to the board as an action item, if we say that if they don't get at least 75 entrants, that we waive part of the rental for the first year, and if they get over 75, then they just pay. That would be my proposal. I don't know what anyone else feels.
Can you wait, say that one more time? We would waive the fee if they got 75, but have them pay the full price if they got over 75.
Well, waive a portion
a percent.
of the rent.
Okay.
And I know that is biased in favor of one group, but I feel like it's, you know, if somebody's starting a flag football group, for instance, they can rent one field and start their program, and if it's successful, they can go bigger the following year or rent it less days of the week or whatever. But the pool is kind of an all or nothing proposition, and they can't just, rent part of the pool. It doesn't work that way. So I think in order to try to get this swim program that I think would be good for our students and for the district in the long run, I would propose that we take it to the board to waive half of the rental fee if they get less than 75 participants, and charge the full rental fee and the janitorial, the custodial at full bore in either case, if that makes sense.
I think it makes sense. And then I was thinking the swim team could advertise like early bird registration at this fee, and then it goes up so you could get your first 75 at that lower rate at least.
Anyway, I would love to see them get 150 kids in the program, and we don't have to worry about waiving fees, but I know that it's difficult to start out when you don't know what the numbers are.
How many swimmers do you think you can coach? Like, what is the max?
There's 60 swimmers I can handle myself.
But we have other coaches.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean, like,
Right, because
Well,
as I mentioned, there will be two groups. So the first group will be potentially 30 swimmers. That will be roughly 3 lanes, and that's yeah, I can do 3 lanes.
Does staff have any input on my idea?
In my head, I'm running through the conversations I'm going to have with the other 110 user groups that want the same. So that's what this guy, his team will have to deal with moving down the road. So
The first thing that pops in my head is I know they're trying to start a football program. And the stadium costs are more expensive than the pool, if I remember correctly. So
Will they be renting the stadium 5 days a week?
I'm just saying the costs of their all day they have 3 or 4 teams all day on a Saturday for $80 or $100 an hour, whatever the stadium costs. I don't know. I anticipate someone else coming to the next meeting asking for something similar.
Yeah, I understand that concern, I do.
do I have a direction or?
I'm going to defer to the committee. Like I said, I don't feel like it's fair for me to.
can I make just a thought? So when we were discussing the, programs that have been here for the tiered user group thing, those programs that have been here for 5 or plus years, and the older ones, they started, many, many years ago when there wasn't a lot of competition and demand for all of these groups. And it was probably a little bit easier to get started back then than it is to get started now. So I'm just, but they have this perk of having this 5+ years in the district and in good standing or whatever. I don't want to call it a perk, like they've earned it and they're reliable and all of that. But then we have this, these people that like the swim club that want to get started, or the football group that want to get started, that like there's no perk at all whatsoever. So it's just a thought that crossed my mind that, can we help facilitate these groups that are trying to start in some way? I mean, would it be, how financially detrimental would it be to the school district to waive a portion of the fees for the football club and the swim club? Like, what is the?
I don't think that the issue is the level of detriment to the school district that waiving fees is. I think it's more an issue of fairness and what is good for one is good for the other. And that's the real dilemma. I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball and suggest that this committee leave it up to the superintendent and the board president as to what goes on the agenda for the next board meeting.
Is that okay with the?
I don't know what that means. You guys are gonna have a conversation about it? with
The superintendent, in conjunction with the board president, sets the agenda for the
Okay.
next meeting.
And that's you and Dr. Nicholas?
That
Okay.
is correct.
Okay.
If everyone is comfortable with that, we'll move forward with that.
And I can provide Dr. Nicholas all the background from the meeting if you'd like.
Yes, I would appreciate that.
You betcha. Okay.
Then I will jump back in. I think there's an extra item that was to be
Yes,
discussed.
please. Thank you
Yeah, thank you very much.
for your
Thank
time.
you. Yeah, thank you, Tom.
So item F is something that Mr. LeGrand brought to the board meeting last night that I think was a item that can potentially save staff a lot of time and help our school sites have a little better quality fields. This device is the Turf Tank 1, is that right?
Turf Tech is the
Yeah,
company.
Turf Tank is the company. And I'm going to let Jimmy explain to the group what this device does and what he saw when he got the demo. And then we'll have Jen run the demo for the group to see.
It's basically a robotic line striping machine. It works off GPS. It comes with a sort of an iPad type to control the unit. It has pre-programmed measurements for every sport you could think of, some I've never even heard of. Once you lay out where you want to start, it remembers, for example, we painted Wickland soccer field. And once you have it laid out, it gets stored in the memory. So next time it comes out there, it starts in the exact same spot, does the exact same routine. It painted Wickland soccer field in about 25 minutes. It takes 2 or 3 of us 3-4 hours to do it by hand. And quite frankly, did a better job than we could do or have done in the past. So it's easy to use. It comes with 2 batteries, 4 hours, so you could do some fields before lunch, swap out the batteries, finish fields after lunch. But going more, we personally, I don't feel do a good enough job striping the fields. We don't stripe them as often as we should. We don't stripe them as many as we could, potentially, just time and labor type thing. So it'd be beneficial, I think, for all the sites to be used. So that's pretty much it, right?
So staff proposal is, by the way, let's look at the picture here. The little iPad device is in the top left corner of the picture. And if Jen, if you could run the little video we have from the website, it's pretty slick. Of course, this is sped up, obviously. Doesn't go that fast.
That would be pretty
That would
awesome
be pretty
if it
cool
did.
if it did, though.
So every year they want a practice field at the high school between the softball and the baseball fields. It takes us a couple days to lay it out. This will do the field in about 3 hours. Band always wants a field behind the C building to practice about a 50-yard field they want for do their practicing for their routine. That takes us a long time to do. It'll do the numbers as you see. It'll do letters. It'll paint Mountain House, wherever you want to put it in the end zone. It has a reverse feature. you may not know, when you stripe a field, you kind of want to paint one side and then come back over the line the second way to get both sides of the grass. It has that capability. It has a low, medium, and high speed, and it has 3 different tips to adjust the flow of paint. Works out as a 2.5 gallon jug of paint. Very simple to use. You unscrew it, you put the siphon in, put it in the tank, and away you go. When you're done, you put a tank with clear water, flush it out for about 5 minutes, and that's done for your maintenance. Wipe down the machine if necessary. Pretty easy. Oh, sorry, store. And then on the iPad here, if you notice the 2142 in the picture, that's how long it's been running. And then the 224 is how much it has left to run in the program for that particular field. That was Wickland day before yesterday.
So the reason I brought this forward is the cost of this cool little tool is $11,000 a year with a $1,500 setup fee, a one-time $1,500 setup fee. I think it could save a lot of staff time. I think that it would be a valid use of facilities use fees, which we have plenty of money to pay for that year to year in our facilities use fees, because it would directly help all the user groups that use our fields. Now, obviously, this wouldn't be necessary for the football field. It's already lined, it's turf, et cetera. We just use that as an example. But multiple soccer fields are lined, multiple baseball and softball fields are lined at multiple schools. We now have soccer as a spring sport at our K-8 schools. So we line all the soccer fields at all the schools for that in the spring.
So the guy that came out yesterday even said that if our user groups wanted us to paint their fields for them, we could end up could charge them a fee to
Oh,
paint for football or soccer
wow.
or anything else.
That's amazing.
So I know it's a pain. I've striped many fields over the years, and that's another layer that we'd have to figure out a cost, obviously. But if we charge them $50 or $100, whatever it is, I don't know. But that could be something we incorporate into this down the road if it works out.
Could be a part of our fee structure. So which has been mentioned tonight, let's just use flag football. It could paint all the lines for the flag football teams and be a lot
And
easier.
soccer too.
Oh yeah, all the soccer. Yeah,
Soccer,
Oh,
it can do all
Because
those
it takes
items.
them forever, to do it.
it'll paint cricket. We're gonna have a cricket field at Costa next year, and then maybe one down the street from the high school sooner rather than later. It'll do, like I said, it had every sport someone never even heard of before. So
The $11,000 a year, is that a lease payment for the equipment, or?
it's a lease.
It's a lease and it's a guaranteed cost for 6 years.
And at the end of 6 years, well, what is the life expectancy of the unit, if you know? And at the end of the 6 years, do we get new equipment and start over, or?
They didn't give me a life expectancy, but at the end of the lease, if ours is still running good, we could redo the lease again, or if it needs to be replaced, they'll replace it. Start a whole new lease program.
And just because you stripe a lot of fields, do you currently do the baseball fields for baseball games, or do the coaches?
The only thing we know in the baseball softball field are the foul lines and the grass, but this will do the batter's boxes like you see in the center picture there. It'll do.
So this would be saving not only like your staff money, but a lot of coaches who have to go out early before games.
Yes.
Would save them time as well.
I know the coaches are out there. I think they get a half day sub or something. They go out there and prep the fields. That could potentially go away. The baseball coach, I see him out there in the afternoon before the games, getting the game fields ready.
Mm-hmm.
This will be used for all the schools or just high school?
All schools.
All of them.
How heavy is that unit, and how do you move it from school to school?
The guy had a truck and he had a ramp he folded out and it just rolled right down the ramp and then rolled back in when it was done.
Just a pickup?
Just a regular pickup truck. It had just a ramp, a double ramp that unfolded and it just rolled right out. With the remote, with the tablet, you make it go forward, back, whatever you want to do. So it literally a one person job, one person go around, do all the fields. Doesn't require anybody else to be there.
And you said it's battery operated?
Yes.
Since it's a lease, I'm assuming that when the batteries get bad, they replace them at their cost. if any of the equipment needs repairs, they repair them at their cost?
That's correct.
And what about the actual paint? Is that the same stuff you use?
Kind of paint?
Yeah, like what kind of paint does it use? And
You use a field striping paint, which generally is about half paint, half water when you mix them up from scratch.
A part of the contract is also $2,000 of paint
okay.
And that's included in the 11,000, not
Included.
additional, right?
and the 11,000.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did
and
I get that right? 2,000?
$2,000 and a jug of paint, a 2.5 gallon jug, which is about this yay big, is around 67, 68 bucks, something like that. And you could do 2 soccer fields with 1 jug.
Okay.
So, depending on how fast you go and blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, yeah, 2 fields.
So then the actual lease for the equipment is $9,000 a year and $2,000 for,
Yeah, they don't say it that way, but yes, when you do the math, that's how it works out.
And is it more efficient with the paint, I mean, than a human, I would imagine? Will we save money in paint cost?
Yes, we spent $4,000 to $5,000 on the rattle cans that are $10 a piece, and it would take 2 cans to do 1 line on a soccer field. So that's $20 right there.
Does everybody know what a shaker can is?
So $4,000 to $5,000 for the whole year on just the spray
Yeah.
paint cans, basically.
That's how much we spent about last year.
Okay.
But like I said, we're not doing it as often as we should, especially during soccer season, and we're not doing as many fields as we should.
This is only like $6,000 more than what you were already paying for
Yeah.
the
Yes.
spray
Well, it
paint,
frees
let
it-
alone manpower, right?
Yeah, because it frees up a lot of staff
Yeah.
members to
Right.
tend to other pressing matters, right?
Is there a limitation, like lease terms, when like we can use this week, any unlimited use or
Yeah.
it's unlimited?
Unlimited.
Okay.
Ours.
And can we put a decal on it that says Jim E?
I liked that.
Dr. Nicholas,
Yes.
yeah.
I really like that
For
too.
sure.
Yeah.
Jim-E.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he said that in open session last night, so that seems to be catching on.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be pretty great to see that on a decal
Yeah.
on the machine going around.
That was
there.
not one of our initial names, by the way. I don't know where you pulled that one out on me.
Clever.
That is clever. Any other questions or
This
comments?
is going to be my kid's next Halloween costume. Jim E.
So, I guess the next step with consensus of everyone is to bring this to the board for approval?
Yeah, I would, usually what we do when we spend facilities use fees for something like this is I would write a board item and take it to the board for approval. We've done that before with refurbishing of fields using the facilities use fees and things of that nature. So that's how it would function.
Do I have consensus?
Yes?
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Item 6, future agenda topics and meeting dates. Future meeting dates, 5/11/23. Any other topics that anyone wants to suggest? Then,
Just had one because I don't know whether it qualifies for that. Just wanted to see like, because people know they were asking one question like facilities especially. So is it right now we are renting out the facilities during the school days or school schedule? Is it not possible to like do it whole year while school is closed or during holidays, long weekends? Can we rent those facilities or something? People ask me to ask you guys, so I don't know.
So our facilities are available to rent when schools aren't used.
Yeah, exactly.
So the answer is yes, school facilities are available after hours, depending on what facility it is. However, what we've run into, especially this school year and last school year, is we have more requests than we can fulfill because we don't necessarily have custodial coverage to open, close, clean, etc. for certain events. So that is something that we've been dealing with as an organization, ongoing.
Can we open whole year or just during like right
Yeah.
now you do like a
We have
spring?
seasons.
Yeah, season.
We do seasons because our schools don't know their sports schedules the whole year. And our schools take precedence, right? So they put in all their schedules into the facilities to avoid getting double booked. But we don't know in what is it, August that we do the next one?
We do the summer, but then August, yeah.
Yeah,
August, right? So by August, we know the fall schedules for the high school. When do we open it? In January is the next time back?
It's open right after Christmas.
Yeah. So when we open after Christmas, we don't know the schedules for fall. So we can't open it all the way through. So when we open in August, we don't know the schedule for our winter for basketball yet. So we have to wait. And that's why there's the times that we open for user groups because of that. Our league, our CIF leagues don't have the schedules ready for us because they haven't been decided. Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely.
And that's really to the benefit of the outside users, because we could just let them pick whatever they wanted with the understanding that they're going to get kicked out if it conflicts. Well, that doesn't give them the opportunity to choose a date that's open when they book it in the first place.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
No, but the question more likely is on during like the summer break, during holidays. So we don't rent facilities, right?
We do. We rent
We do the
facilities.
summer.
It's just
Summer?
The custodial.
Custodial coverage.
You have to,
Okay.
yeah,
There.
We didn't used to, but we do now. When I first got here, we didn't have summer at all. And
Summer.
then we opened it up pretty soon after I got here, so we have all summer.
Okay, that's what I want. Thank you. Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, that we will adjourn the facilities meeting at 8:01 p.m.